Alrighty, I'm starting a video about putting Marsblades together. These are Marsblade roller frames. And what I did is I just wanted to buy a cheaper pair of Bauer skates. Not too expensive, probably 100, maybe even under 100 bucks. Nexus Bauer Pure Control skates. I bought those. Where I bought them, I told them to take the toques out. So they removed the rivets and took the toques out for me. These are like 13 and a half, size 13 and a half, so I no longer need them. Okay. These are the boots I'm going to put them in. You can see they've got the rivet holes. They don't match up perfectly with the Marsblades yet. I'll show you that as we go along. They're brand new skates. I don't even know if they can be molded. They're not. They're just cheap skates. But that's that. And here's the hardware. And the insoles that came with it. So I'll be mounting the Marsblades. There's the Marsblade bearings. And this is the wheels. All the Marsblade wheels. Got the set of wheels. And the Marsblade actual frames, the wheels, the hardware, everything's in here, the booklet's in here. And then I have the hardware. This is the fourth set of Marsblades I put together using T-bolts as opposed to rivets. I don't have a rivet machine for skates. So, these are the washers I'll be using. My other three Marsblades that I did for people had regular stainless steel Phillips head screws, and I could see how they could strip easy, so I kind of changed it up here with what I thought would be better 632 machine head cap screws. And we're talking like that. See, you've seen them before. You get one of them out, little 632 cap screws. Trying to focus. Where is the focus? Yeah, anyway. Cap screws, nuts and bolts. This is 632 by 5/8 long. And I may need to cut some of these. And I got had to get a whole bunch of these T-nuts from Home Depot. They're going to go in the skate, and I don't want this video to be too long. So now I'm going to match up the blades to the skates and have to drill my holes. These are 3/8. I got different size, 5/8 and 3/8. So hopefully I won't have to do as much cutting. And I'm wondering where the other hardware is that I'll need. Anyway, I'll get back with you and I'll start the process to line up the blades with the bottom of here, like so and so. Lining those up, drilling holes. Be right back. And like I said, I've got everything lined up here. T-nuts, the 632 by 1/4 inch T-nuts. And then I got my washers, and I've got 3 different sizes of my cap screws, my small cap screws. Like I said earlier, on another 3 sets that I did, I used Phillips head screws, and they would strip. They could strip if you tighten them too tight. But these I like these a lot better. This is my first time trying cap screws, so I'll give them a shot. And so here we go. Now when you open up the top of the box of the Marsblades box, you open up this little flap, and these are washers that are, I believe they're 15 degrees. They offset at 15 degrees, so you can mount them better. You can use them or you can't use them. It doesn't matter. It'd be more better if you used them. Anyway, I don't use them. And you got a book here, all about the Marsblade book. Hey, there's Mr. Mars. No, that's not Mr. Mars. He's in here somewhere. And they talk about the flow motion technology. You can change your wheel size here for standard setup or advanced training. What to do and what not to do as far as mounting instructions. And here shows those washers, the 15-degree angle washers. And the instructions, of course, help you put it together properly. That's that. And then you've got, also inside the box is the wheel mounting kit with the wheel mounting tool. And that's just the bolts and stuff for mounting the wheel. So let's get going and drill the holes into the boot. One more thing is a sizing recommendation for your skates, whether they're Reebok or Bauer or CCM. On the back of the box here, back of the Marsblade box, you have some instructions about the sizing and the recommendation if you're interested. You can also go to their website and find that information. Okay, what can be a real tricky part about this is lining up the boot to the Marsblade frame. As the instructions say, how to place the frame on the boot should be aligned centered to the upper part of the frame. Do not center the boot according to the wheelbase. Well, I don't have the wheels on here yet, so anyway, so as you can see here, this is not centered here in this picture because the front part's sticking out, the back part isn't. Over here, that's how it should be centered. Oh, it shows the frame is centered right to the toe to the heel. And here it's too far back there, you know. Then it says if the boot is slightly bigger than the frame, you still center the top portion, not the wheelbase. Now, on my case, here's the boot, way off. I got a huge foot. This is 13.5. Marsblades don't make one big enough. In fact, this is basically too small. But I got to go with what I got to go with. Now, in my case, there's two holes that line up back here. This hole here is already drilled in a skate, and that hole there. There's holes there. As you can see, I cannot use these two upper holes here because this skate here, as you can see if I move it, it's got a hollow where the plastic stops. So I got to line it up like that. And I will drill an extra hole up here in the front and just use all the holes that I can. And where I'll have to drill new holes. But by looking, it looks like I will have to see, now here's a hole right there and there that goes right through the hollow. See that hole right there? There's nothing behind there. So I will probably end up drilling a hole pretty close to the edge right here and going there, and drilling a hole here close to the edge. I won't be using a couple of these holes here, so I just have to line it up back and forth, center and center from the tip there, and you can see how bigger this boot is. So let's get on with the drilling, and I'll let you know the sizes of the drill that I use. One thing I have to mention is on the T-nuts, they have the sharp prongs sticking up, 4 of them to each T-nut. They're too long. You won't be able to force them into the plastic. So what you have to do is take a pair of wire cutters and cut each one of these off. As you can see, I've cut one off with this big pair of junky wire cutters, and it leaves a little piece like this. And you can see how much shorter it is. It still leaves a little bit there to bite into the plastic. Once you tighten it up with the bolt, so, and that's what you need to do. That's tedious work, and you'll have to do that to about 30 of them because there's about 30 holes to do, 15 on each skate or so. So it's kind of tedious. This whole job takes, man, 2 or 3 hours. I mean, it's a little bit tedious to do all this, to get set up and get all your drill sizes and drill and screw and be careful and line things up and double check everything. Anyway, let's get to it. And there's the difference between a T-nut that I've nipped off the cleats. You see there's the new ones. They have those sharp things sticking up that are just too long to go into the skate. Uh, and after you nip these off, you get these little pieces here, and it leaves a little bit for a bite. As you can see, there's little bits sticking up for a bite, and that they do the trick. So you got to do that to all your T-nuts. Okay, here's another step to consider: the two different drill sizes. First of all, the T-nut shaft right here is a couple hundred thousandths. So it's actually around 200 thousandths. And the existing skate holes are about 3/16. That's 0.187. So when I drill into the skate, so the T-nuts can pass through the skate, the drill that I'm going to use is the number 5 drill, which is a 205. And there's a 205 drill right there. So we use a 205 drill because as it stands right now, the boot, the pre-existing holes in this boot are, let's say, about 183 thousandths or whatever. So these got to be out a little bit more. But only a couple of these will ever line up. All the holes, most of the holes I have to do are going to be drilled by me. So the deal is, don't get mixed up here. When you drill through the skate plastic, use the drill that's going to create clearance for the T-nut shaft, which is 200 thousandths or so. So I'm going to use a 205 thousandths number 5 drill for that. That's going to be used to drill through there. Do not use the 205 thousandths drill into the Marsblade plastic. This has to be followed because the only deal that's going to pass through this is the 632 bolt. And the 632 is a 0.136 diameter, much smaller. And when I drill through the plastic of this to line up with these that I will be drilling, I'll use a 5/32 drill, which is a 0.156 drill. Anyway, and that's the 156 drill I'll be using right here. So let's get on with it. Again, what I'm going to do is line up 2 holes first. I'm going to put this on here, line it up. I'm going to drill 2 holes, or use an existing hole, and put at least 2 nuts in to get it straightened, and then just go from there. What I'll have to do is use the smaller drill first to drill through the skate into the boot, and then re-drill the other holes that are going to be into here. Okay, I've placed 2 T-nuts inside of this particular skate here, you can see. Now, they're so close to the edge that there have been times in other skates that I've done that I've actually had to grind some of the very edge off so it wouldn't protrude and come against the edge of the skate here. I'm sorry, right here. See, you have to grind some of that edge right there off. I've done that before. Or you can turn it so that the least space available here is not hitting that area here. So, and then of course on the back side, I drilled those 2 holes with the number 5 drill, these 2 holes right here. Now I'll put my deal here on and bolt it up with the 632 screws just to get it in place, and drill the other holes with a smaller drill. Okay, to show you where I'm at now, I've secured the Marsblade frame to the boot by just 2 screws right there, 2 Allen head cap screws, that one there with a washer, and that one there with a washer. No, they're not lock washers. I couldn't find lock washers that small. I could have done the lock wash deal. I would have rather done lock washer deal, but I didn't. But on the other 3 skates that I've done, none of them have ever come loose. They're pretty tight in there, so the best deal around that situation is to just check them every couple of skates that you do with them, make sure they're not coming loose. And anyway, if I want to, I can put lock washers in there at a later time. And now the dilemma I have with these huge 13.5 size skates with the large Marsblade that are not made for large skates is up to the tip. You can see here, if I move it just a little bit this way, boom, see there's the hollow of the plastic. Nowhere to drill up top there, so I'll center it up here. So now I'll be able to drill right about there and still make way, and right about there and still have material. But here, all this right here, I won't have no material, because right below there is just a hollow, as you can see. Barely see right there, it's a hollow. So how many screws will I have here altogether? Well, I'm going to have, let's see, I got, I'll start from this and go around. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to put one right here, 5, 6, none there, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, just like I thought. 15 of them. That's what I'll do. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up just like it is, leave it like it is. I'm going to use the smaller drill. The drill that's for the 632 bolts, the 5/32 drill. I'm going to use the 5/32 drill and go in here and drill through here into the plastic of the skate boot. And because I don't want to make these holes any larger, because the cap head screw won't have nowhere to go. I'll have a washer under it, yes. The washer diameter that I'm using is something like 378, about 3/8. 3/8. So yeah, I don't want to increase that hole size anymore. So let's get moving. Okay, I just used my 5/32 drill and drilled one hole there and drilled the other hole here. And what I'm going to do is drill all the other holes that are not lining up, centering it through the hole there, and not making the Marsblade hole any bigger, but drilling through the skate plastic into all the holes that I need to do. To make sure that it don't wiggle around, I'll take my 632 bolts and just put them in here temporarily. Just squeezing them in there. There's one. Squeeze another one in there. 2. Okay, see, now it won't move around. When I try to move it, it's stabilized. So now I'm going to take this and just continually drill there all throughout. And when I'm done, I'm going to have to remove the Marsblade and drill the skate plastic open to the number 5 drill, the 205 thousandths hole, so that the T-nut shafts will fit through the skate plastic from the inside of the skate. Okay. I failed to mention one thing. This Marsblade roller frame right here has 2 pieces. This, and this. They come out by unloosening this with a special tool they supply in here, which I'm going to get out, and I'm going to remove this so that I can drill these holes better, and I don't need a super long drill, and these flanges and sections here don't get in my way when I'm drilling. So I'll remove that now and proceed with drilling. And one thing to take note is you don't want to get this section here backwards with this section. It's kind of hard to tell, but where this curves down here in the front, you can see it comes over here and zip, curves down. Well, in the back it doesn't do that. The back is just kind of straight. The back is kind of straight. And you can also look at your directions and see how that configuration works also if you're getting mixed up. So I got the special tool and I'm loosening these bolts right here and taking this section out. Okay, I removed this section from the skate right here. This section right here has been removed, and as you can see, these are the bolts that go with it. 4 bolts, posts, and this middle deal here under there with a special tool gets that. So now I can take the drill and have a much easier time you know, getting into all these different holes here and having clearance. Okay, I've drilled all my holes here to the smaller drill, the 5/32 drill, through the Marsblade into the skate, and now I'm going to remove these temporary Allen head cap screws that kept it into position, and I'll remove that one, I'll remove this one, and after that I'm going to have to unscrew these other Allen head cap screws that kept it in position and remove the Marsblade upper frame. Once I do that, I'll remove the upper frame. It'll come off, and I'll use the number 5 drill here and drill into the plastic itself, making enough clearance for the T-nuts to get through. Here we go. Okay, I've drilled all the holes big enough for the T-nuts to go through from the other side and from the inside of the skate. As you can see, then I went around with a file and I got the burrs off. However you want to, whatever tools you want to use to get the burrs off with a file, and then maybe with a drill, a bigger drill, to just countersink a little bit, whatever, to get burrs off, smooth it out, so that when you attach your Marsblade blade frame, it won't get burrs and stuff stuck between. You'll have a good fit. And you can see one of the holes here didn't line up. This hole that I drilled right here, right there, that is only about halfway in. I'll probably still try to do it. Every little bit helps. We'll see. I can't really drill another one out here. There just wasn't enough room. So anyway, there they are. There's the holes. Now it's time to break the tangs off break the tangs off on the T-nuts that I showed you earlier in the video, and get all the T-nuts in, and then just screw the Marsblade in and put the Marsblade together. So let me get going to that section. Okay, I've cut tangs off of the Marsblade, off the T-nuts for the Marsblade, and so I've got them. I got 15 of them at least done. Now I've got to get in the boot and put those T-nuts inside of the boot. Now it's easy enough to grab a T-nut with your hands and try to get inside the boot and stick it in there. But when you get way up here to the top, to the tip, and you're trying to get some of these holes that are up here, you can't hang on to it. So you got to put Scotch tape on your finger and hold it that way, like so. Like so. I've got a little piece of Scotch tape in this. So now when I come up here and I go inside the boot to go way up, let me try to get it now. I'm going to get it into this hole. See if I can do it holding the phone with one hand. Try to find that hole. And it can be tricky. So you get it into the holes, and I'm going to get 2 T-nuts into a couple holes at first, and then tighten it down, and then put the rest of the T-nuts in after the Mars upper frame is in place. Let's do that. Okay, I've begun to go around the outside putting the T-nuts in. There are intricacies to think about when doing this. You can see how much space here, how much bigger the boot is. One day the Marsblade will make an extra large roller frame. Maybe a double X, I don't know, but anyway. You can see when you look inside the boot, but you've got to be sure that your nuts and your T-nuts aren't allowing the 632 bolt to protrude like is happening here. Then when you put your insole in this skate, your heel will hit that and it'll give you a boo-boo. So, like this one is below the surface, below flush. See if I can focus that in. There it is. That's where you want it. Sometimes the way the bottom tilts here as you're tightening these bolts up, you got to get one that's good, and then you get the other one, and it may be too long. Well, while this one's tightened up and it's not protruding, go to the next size shorter over this one. You'll get the idea once you start doing it. But so now it's time to continue around here and add all of the 632 Allen screws and get this tight. Here we go. Okay, I now have all the 632 Allen head cap screws in with the washers, and you can tell the space between top and the bottom, but I've got it centered, but you can see how small the actual Marsblade large size goes onto an even bigger skate. And the inside T-nuts are in. There's 16 altogether. And now it's time to assemble the actual wheels and the lower Marsblade frame, and we'll go from there. Okay, this is how I align the T-nut to the hole that I've drilled in the plastic of the skate. You got to put Scotch tape on your finger so you can hold the T-nut like this. When you put it in here, it's hard to find the hole, so you put the Allen wrench in the hole, poke it through, and you're feeling around for it, and you're feeling like this. And when you get into the center like that, you'll know you get it, and then you push it in the hole. And so you would bring it in here like so. I'm trying to find it right now. Feeling around for it, I can feel it. There it is. And I push it through the hole like so, and then I take the screw, the Allen head cap screw, and put it in, and it starts to thread. Okay, one note that I'd like to mention is when you first put the T-nut in the hole from the inside of the skate, use the longer bolts like so, because what happens is, because of these notches right here, cleats, whatever you want to call them, cleats, they raise up the T-nut on the inside, and the really short screws like so, you won't reach and you won't be able to thread it in. So use the longer ones at first, bring them down, tighten it up very tight, like so, and tighten it up like that, really tight. And what that does is when you tighten it up, the T-nut will go into the plastic really hard, embed into the plastic, and then after it's embedded in the plastic, get another one over here on this side so that it pushes this up against, because if you don't push it up against, it may tilt and you still won't be able to get a short one in here. So I've got a long one in here and a long one in here. What I did then was took out the long one in here and put the short one in. And the reason they have to be short is so they don't protrude from the bottom. If that 632 Allen head comes up above here, you're going to get it in your heel. But the T-nut does protrude above the plastic here, but once you get your insole in, you won't feel it. Once again, as you can see, I've used 632 3/8 length, half-inch length, and 5/8 length with these washers. And here I am done with the right skate. It's finished, so now they're all done. All the bolts are in. Now there's a few places, just a couple, that you notice I used 2 washers. The reason being is because I couldn't screw 3/8 bolts, wouldn't reach far enough to connect to the T-nut in the back here. And the biggest deal is you have to be sure that no 632s are protruding above the T-nuts. The T-nuts themselves protrude about 100 thousandths, I don't know, a 1/16 of an inch above the soft palate of the deal here, of the skate. Like I say, once the liner gets in here, here's the liner. Once the liner gets in here, hopefully you won't be able to feel it. So that's your biggest deal, is fighting the protrusions back in here to make sure that, just like skate rivets, these T-nuts don't protrude and you feel it in your feet. So just be sure that none of your 632 bolts go above the T-nut. And that's that. Now to assemble this and to try them on and start playing hockey on the Marsblades. Okay, this is basically how the Marsblades work. You have this piece here that slips inside of this piece. This lower part of the frame slips inside of this piece, and it's able to go back and forth like that. Right now it's apart. I don't have these rubber washers in. These rubber grommets, this one here goes on the top, and this one here goes on the bottom, right here in the middle. As you can see where this hole is right there. Really can't come into focus. And so it rocks back and forth as you're skating. Once the wheels go in, and that's what makes the FMT, the flow motion technology. And when you're putting your wheels together, be sure you put one bearing in only one side of the wheel first. If you're not thinking and you put the other one in, also, then you won't be able to get your wheel bolts in, because after you put one wheel bearing in one side, you flip it over and you put the centerpiece in like so, then you put the other bearing in. For cosmetic purposes, be sure when you put your wheels on that the Marsblade symbol goes to the outside. Like this is the right hand skate, so the Marsblade goes to the outside just for cosmetic purposes and making it look good. When people look at you, they'll see that Marsblade going around, if that's what you want. Okay, here they are all done. Here's the left, all ready to go, with its bolts in place. Here's the right. Okay, now for some weight comparisons. This is a very good gram scale that I got with our Vitamixer. Let's zero it out. Okay. Here's my 13.5 Bauer skate, the S190s. Okay, we'll put that on there, see what that weighs. Get it right. $956 grams. Here's my true skate, my VH skate, same size, same foot, left foot. $1,082 grams, a little heavier than the Bauer. And now the left Marsblade skate, which is going to be much heavier. That's not as heavier than I thought. It's 1,411 grams. So the results of the weight of the skates are, with the Bauer being the lowest weight for my size 13 skate, the Bauer is 2.1 pounds, the VH skate is 2.4 pounds, and the Marsblade skate is 3.1 pounds.